So, just like last week, right as I was about to upload this podcast, some big NFL news broke. Last week was Pat Bowlen. This week it's Colin Kaepernick's collusion case. So I wanted to address that before we start the podcast and just say I'm really fucking sick of the NFL breaking news right as I'm about to upload this podcast. You could at least have the courtesy to get your fucking news out the fucking door before noon. Before noon 30. Otherwise, you're just being indecent. You're being a bunch of dicks, and you're fucking with my day, and I'm fucking sick of it, and you're fucking making me say the fuck word way more than I want to. And I always want to say it, by the way. Switching positions, because the info's on my other computer for anybody watching and not just listening to this. But anyway, Colin Kaepernick, basically he wins his first ruling to continue his collusion case against the NFL. This was, I guess, called a summary judgment phase, which is something the NFL had requested. They were hoping by doing this first that the case would get dismissed. And there was an arbitrator, Stephen Burbank, who refused the dismissal. So favoring Colin Kaepernick and moving this case towards a hearing. So the arbitrator believes that there is enough evidence here to take this case to trial, that the NFL has shown, at least in his opinion, enough evidence that there was some sort of collusion to keep Colin Kaepernick out of the league. This is really, really, really big news. And going to piss off so many people. So many people are going to have just the best opinions about this entire case. And the only way now it looks like that this case does not go to trial is if the NFL decides to settle with Colin Kaepernick, which means paying him a fuck ton of money. So this will be interesting and something, just another storyline to keep our eye on for the remainder, well, the season hasn't even started yet, but for the duration of the NFL season. So I just wanted to give the Colin Kaepernick collusion case news update. That is still freaking happening. That's the news. And now we can start the podcast. Welcome to the That's Good Sports Podcast. You are listening to a podcast about football and sports. It's going to be shitty to great, really, depending on what kind of person you are. I'm Brandon Perna, here with Will Keys. Say hi, Will.
Oh, hey, friends.
So today, this podcast, we basically spend half of it talking about the Denver Broncos, and then the other half talking about NFL football, because I built a YouTube channel based around Broncos fans and then slowly expanded to all NFL fans. So we're trying to keep in with that theme here. This podcast is available on iTunes, Podbean, because we post this video on my second YouTube channel, That's Good Broncos. So go into iTunes. If you like this podcast, give us a rating. 5 stars would be great. We don't necessarily deserve that, but we're just trying to game the system. So if you want to help us stick it to the fucking man, give us 5 stars. If you want to be part of the systematic process that crushes the small guy, then don't give us a rating. But that's really up to you. Today's topics, we've got Peyton Manning possibly trying to recruit Joe Thomas when he was a Bronco, the Broncos signing of Pac-Man Jones, a bunch of Broncos retiring, and Broncos Cardinals preview for tonight's game. And then in NFL news, we've got we're going to do a little Jalen Ramsey talk. There's a really good article about him. Saints trading for Teddy Bridgewater, Aaron Rodgers, and Odell Beckham Jr. making more money than any of us will ever fucking have in our life, unless, of course, Warren Buffett is listening to this podcast, as he usually does. Seahawks trading for Brett Hundley, and we've got a new segment called Max Millions, where we decide what we would do with the money that Khalil Mack is wasting by not being on the football field. So could be pretty strong segment, in my opinion, Will. And because maybe I thought of it. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to call my shot. I think this is going to be, if not the best, at least the top 10 episode so far.
Sweet.
Yeah, you might be saying, hey, you've only had like 13 episodes, but it's definitely not going to be the worst. So
there's only 3 that are worse than this one, for sure.
Right. That we know of so far.
So I wanted to talk about just a little bit here. Last night, my wife's been watching very Cavallari.
Of course.
With Jay Cutler's in the reality show. And my wife watched a lot of football when we first started dating in 2013. And that's really kind of when I launched my That's Good Sports YouTube channel. And that, of course, was the Broncos' like crazy offensive record-breaking season. So it was a good football season for her to kind of like jump into. And then every year she's slowly like progressed of not giving a shit about watching football with me. So we're watching very Cavallari, and she asked me like very innocently, she was like, Jay Cutler used to be a quarterback, right? And I said, yeah. And she just goes, he doesn't really seem like a leader to me if he was a quarterback. Wow. And like I started laughing so hard because I was like, well, that was sort of the knock on Cutler his entire career was he wasn't a great leader at the quarterback position. And which is funny because like I think like she didn't really mean it in a super negative way because we both think Cutler is like hilarious on the show. She really likes him like as a personality there. So she wasn't trying to be mean for the sake of being mean the way I think a lot of people are when they talk about, sports or football players and their biases towards them. But it was just a really funny observation, and I wanted to kind of mention it on here.
It's like that guy looks like he might get injured in an NFC championship game and not returned at all.
And the injury may or may not be that severe. We don't know.
Yeah, it could be a torn ACL. It could be a simple bruise. Who's to say? Yeah, that's a very astute observation. I think that's something you would pick up just having seen like a few clips from that show. He doesn't really scream like leader of men.
No,
at least on that show. We haven't seen him in the huddle or anything. So
I think the problem with Jay Cutler really is he just stayed true to who he is as a person, which I feel like I have a lot of Jay Cutler in me where it's like you just don't really give that much of a shit and you're just a little sarcastic about everything. And like I totally like the more I see him in a different light, the more I like him and relate to him. But when you're an NFL quarterback, if the only way you can be like that strong, silent leader is if you don't make mistakes on the football field. And if you're a guy like Jay Cutler, you need that Brett Favre sort of like rah, rile the team up and get them behind you because you just love the game so much. So they'll forgive you for throwing, 3 picks in a game because they know in the fourth quarter you might throw them the game-winning touchdown. And that was kind of just never what Cutler was sort of able to do.
Yeah, I feel like Cutler, like early in his career, like actually did care. Maybe like cared too much. I remember his rookie year, he like cared in that game against San Francisco, if you remember, where like someone got in his face and like a veteran, like he was like, I don't remember who it was, someone for the 49ers in 2006, and like pushed him away. I was like, everyone was like, as a rookie, like that was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Of course, it'd be like a 100-yard penalty and $1 million fine these days, but
right.
It looked like Jay Cutler cared at one time, and then like the Chicago media just beat him down into just absolute nihilism after that championship.
Yeah, well, he had the Phillip Rivers feud. He used to talk shit to Phillip Rivers. That was going to be a great rivalry.
We were robbed of so many years of that.
That would have been so much fun to watch. And when Cutler was traded away, I was pissed, man. Like,
I was too.
The talent with Jay Cutler was there. I mean, he said he had a better arm than John Elway when he was in Denver. Like, he had the fucking balls. And, he went to Chicago. Maybe if Cutler was just put on a better team, too, like, it would have worked out for him.
Right.
Like
he got
Chicago,
sacked like 50 times every year.
He did. he took a fucking pounding. Like people forget, like, Cutler had the shit beat out of him. And it wasn't because and he wasn't like the type of quarterback who always just held on to the ball too long. You know what I mean? Like he wanted to make a play, and he would make bad throws and mistakes from time to time because he was a little too confident, but he also had shitty offensive lines and teams around him. But
yeah, that's your daily Jay Cutler talk.
Every week we bring you Jay Cutler news.
Mm-hmm. We just need him to make headlines really, really badly, right? Or else the show won't survive.
All right, so what I wanted to do next is I happened to catch a clip from the Tomahawk podcast, which is Joe Thomas and AJ Hawk's podcast.
I think it's Andrew Hawkins, isn't it?
Andrew. Is it Andrew Hawkins?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think AJ Hawk does another podcast.
Oh, he does the Barstool podcast,
yeah, right? I could see how that might be confusing.
It's confusing when you just barely glance at things and don't take the time to learn.
Wow.
But anyway, whoever the fuck Joe Thomas does a podcast with, I wanted to play the clip that I saw on Twitter from that podcast. And Joe Thomas does not name Peyton Manning. But he's talking about Peyton Manning trying to recruit him for the Broncos. So we're going to go ahead and play that clip for you now. So make sure you check out the Tomahawk podcast.
I'm going to tell a quick story that I've never told before. I never told anybody.
Yes,
so
I love Tomahawk.
There was
takes.
a quarterback at the time in Denver, pretty well-known quarterback, who actually sent me a text about a week or so before the trade deadline and said, "Hey, can you give me a call?" And I'm like, a number I don't have saved in my phone. I'm like, no, I'm not calling somebody I don't know. And he's like, "It's your drinking buddy from the Pro Bowl." Who would that be?
Andy?
So, I called him, and the player answers, doesn't even really totally identify himself. He's like, "Hey, we're trying to get you to Denver." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I appreciate that, but I'm happy in Cleveland." He's like, "We really need you, man. We could use you." And I'm like, "All right." And
all right.
He's like, "But you need to do something because Cleveland doesn't want to get rid of you." I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "You need to go upstairs and pull your pants down and take a dump on your GM's desk, and then they'll trade you." And I'm like, "I don't think that's going to happen, but I appreciate the love." He's like, "Well, just want to let you know, we really love you here. We'd love to get you. And if you could make something work on your end, that would be really helpful."
So basically, It sounds like Peyton Manning told Joe Thomas to go shit on his GM's desk to get a trade, and I just thought the story was funny enough and Broncos relevant enough to share. I don't know. What was your reaction to listening to that?
Well, we don't know that it wasn't Trevor Siemian. He names a Pro Bowl quarterback, and as we know, Trevor Siemian was a Pro Bowl alternate in 2016.
Fair enough.
So
also could have used the left tackle.
Yeah, sure as fuck could have. But yeah, I think it was probably Peyton Manning. That kind of sounds like him. He loves his pranks. There's nothing funnier than dropping your pants and pooping on a GM's desk. That's a classic one.
Peyton Manning, as we know, has a history of dropping his pants for pranks, and not all of them worked out. Some would say borderline sexual harassment, but most people want to believe Peyton Manning never did anything wrong. I was one of them. I see the light now that he's retired, maybe, but
it was 1996. It was a different time where it was okay to drop your pants and rub your balls on people's face.
Right, especially the women trainers, possibly.
It was encouraged back then, I think.
I think the other interesting thing, to me, the most interesting thing isn't like that Manning tried to make a joke or recruit Joe Thomas, but he just texted him, assuming Joe Thomas would know who he was, and by not saying it's me, just saying it's your drinking buddy from the Pro Bowl.
Could be any number of people.
And the best part about that is Joe Thomas is the type of guy who's just would never be super impressed by Peyton Manning. He just seemed totally who the fuck is this guy telling me to how to live my life or where to go?
Yeah. Well, it makes me think too, A, was he even joking? Or did he really everybody knows how competitive Peyton Manning is. Like, he might have just been serious. Like, he really needed a lot
shit on that desk.
Yeah, and they ended up with Vernon Davis, who was like, I don't understand the thought process behind Vernon Davis still. Like, Peyton Manning had probably the worst arm strength in the league at that time, and you get a tight end whose, like, best ability is just going deep and getting vertical. So, in hindsight, Joe Thomas would have made a lot more sense. However, it all worked out in the end. We can't win 2 Super Bowls in 1 year.
Nope.
Yeah, we know of.
Did Joe Thomas ever even make it to a postseason? No, right?
No.
Yeah, that sucks. He's one of the guys who should have. But I respect his loyalty to Cleveland. Like,
I do too.
That's pretty cool, I think. I would honestly
I think they went 10-6 his rookie year, though.
I think if I played in the NFL and just say I had the skill to be a quarterback and I played for Cleveland and never made the playoffs, like, I'd be the type of guy who just stuck and stayed in Cleveland knowing we would never get to the playoffs not because I'm super loyal, but because it would be comfortable, and the easy thing to do is just like stay where you feel familiar.
Yeah, I could see that. I think as long as you're like consistently above 4 wins in Cleveland, like, you've got a job for life. So
right. And like, I don't like high expectations, so I would want to play in the city where they expect it. Like, a good season would be 8-8. Like, that would be my kind of like sweet spot.
Yeah, no, they were thrilled in like 2014 when they went 7-9. I think I'm sure they'd take 2-14 now. Although, I don't know, a lot of people, like we said last week, are picking them to win the AFC North. So that might happen.
We'll see. So what's the next thing here is obviously Adam Jones. The Broncos signed former Bengals corner Adam Pac-Man Jones. I made a video about it. Will, you said you watched it. I was pretty tough on the Broncos for the signing, just from like a optics sort of perception. Like, we know Adam Jones has had a ton of off-field issues, and he got in a fight at an Atlanta airport. That wasn't his fault. He was provoked in this fight in July.
And he won the fight. Let's give him credit.
He won the fight against an airport employee.
Yes.
But he to me, he has had a long enough history of doing bad things off the field. When I listen to him talk, he seems like a good guy. You know what I mean? And for the most part, over the last, I don't know, 5 to 8 years, his off the field issues have been, he's gotten rid of most of them. You would say but like the fight in the airport, even though it wasn't his fault, like, I believe he could have avoided that confrontation or handled it differently. And I feel like it's a hard line as a fan to be able to forgive somebody who has assaulted women and men off the field, whose situation at a strip club led to a shooting. He wasn't the shooter in it that left a man paralyzed. Like, there's a lot of things there that I think are just really fucked up, and I have a hard time separating that as a fan of the game and for somebody who I think will actually make a positive difference for the Broncos on the field. They definitely needed the corner depth. So, like, my question to you is, like, do you think I was too hard on him in the video because I pissed a lot of people off by speaking my mind? And they said you didn't hold Aqib Talib accountable for his off-the-field stuff, which is true. I think they're different. But it's like, how do you navigate that from a perspective of trying to talk about those things in a way that's fair to the players? Because I think players do get screwed in the way they are perceived by fans in a lot of situations. But I also think Pac-Man's one of those – or Adam Jones, sorry, he doesn't like to be called Pac-Man, is one of those players who probably deserves all the criticism he's ever received for his off-field behavior. So what did you think of the way I approached it? Was I too hard? And what are your thoughts on the situation?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really debate the morals of the situation with you because, like, far be it from me to say that, like, going into a strip club and inciting a shooting that leaves a man paralyzed is a good thing.
Right.
All I can say is, like, from a football perspective, every good team has one crazy person. And The problem with the Bengals in 2015 is just that they had two crazy people.
Yeah, him and Vontez, perfect, right?
Vontez, and that's ultimately what led to their demise, pretty much on one play too. So I think now that Aqib is gone, it leaves the door open for just an absolute wild card who could do anything from, make love to a goalpost to smash Amari Cooper's head on the ground during a game. So,
the one thing he does provide is the much-needed hate for Oakland Raiders receivers.
Yes.
With Aqib being gone and Crabtree being out of Oakland,
we're in the market.
Jones trying to smash open Amari Cooper's head during a game is the appropriate level of intensity that Broncos fans, I think, will respect on the field.
Yeah, I think we need someone to, step up and fill Aqib's shoes. I know, Pac-Man's got Amari Cooper covered. That guy's that guy, Pac-Man Jones has to, have real estate in Amari Cooper's head after that whole situation. But I want someone to, pants Jordy Nelson on the field.
Right.
I know Jordy Nelson's probably never done a bad thing in his life, but we need to show the Raiders who's boss again and pull down his pants in the middle of a play.
There you go.
He's running a button hook. Guess what? You just unhooked your button. Pull those pants down.
Pull them panties down.
Yep. Wear underwear, Jordy.
Which player do you think would be most likely to be wearing women's underwear? And I ask because you're talking about maybe in the NFL.
Well, the Raiders, it's easy. Derek Carr, he already wears eyeliner, so.
Okay, fair enough. Low-hanging fruit there, but I respect the answer.
I mean, that's just logical.
I asked because I've been watching Friends for the first time, really. And
Sure.
It was the episode with Joey wearing women's underwear, which I thought was very funny. Player most likely on the Broncos to wear women's underwear.
Most likely on the Broncos. See, that's a tough one. I don't think it's any of the quarterbacks. It might be Emmanuel Sanders. He just strikes me as a person who's so confident in his masculinity that he can wear women's underwear and say, it's just more comfortable, and no one will give him shit for it.
Right. Yeah, I think it might be – that's a good answer. I was going to say Von Miller because for the exact same reason.
Yeah.
He makes more money than anybody on the team. He's the best player on the team. You can do what we learned with Aaron Rodgers yesterday wearing his Canadian tuxedo. When you're that rich, you do whatever the fuck you want.
And Von Miller is very, very wealthy.
Yeah. So wealthy.
Just more money than I'll even see in my life.
Yeah, but I'll pretend like I'll get there one day.
I don't mean possess. I mean actually visually look at.
Well, yeah, you're not going to ever.
Even in small increments.
I mean, you don't see that money anyway now. It's just you look at your fucking bank statement on your phone.
I thought they literally drove up to the player's house with a Brinks truck and pulled the door down.
The money.
And just cash and not even cash, but gold coins and jewels and
I bet
Fabergé eggs poured out.
I bet you could demand that, the way Happy Gilmore demanded that he get all of his golf winning checks as the giant check that they give to the winner. If you're that rich, you can ask for whatever you want.
Well, he also got the lifetime supply of Subway, which kind of begs the question, if you could have a lifetime deal with any fast food place, what are you picking?
I feel did we already talk about this? This seems, or am I just having deja vu?
Either I don't remember, or you're going insane. But
lifetime supply of fast food.
Yeah.
I would have to go. Well, I try to eat healthy, Will. I'm one of those assholes. So I really don't eat fast food anymore. But if I had
or a sit-down chain restaurant.
No. We'll go fast food.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Chipotle because you can at least do that somewhat healthy. And I fucking like Mexican food.
Yeah, that's true. So
I could get a naked bowl with chicken and steak and sour cream and cheese and salsa and technically still be healthy?
Well, he'd be buying new pants every week, but I respect the answer.
It doesn't affect my bowels like that. I am consistent with solid shits. Whiskey, drinking too much really is what changes.
That's what pushes it overboard.
For anybody wanting to know that information. What are you going with?
Well, you said Chipotle, so I'm going to one-up you and say Baja Fresh because they have those nacho burritos, which are tremendous.
Fair enough.
I could eat one of those like once a week easily. Those are good.
Also,
that's your fast food talk.
Of things ending. I had no segue there. Elvis Dumerville.
The player's retired. Okay.
Elvis Dumerville, Julius Thomas, and Eric Decker all retired this week. All former Broncos. Before the episode, I sent Will a text message because I tweeted, I haven't seen this many Broncos retire at the same time since the Mafia made my grandpa shoot all of his racing horses. I wanted to see if Will thought it was funny. I couldn't tell if it was funny, not funny, or just a little fucked up. So
I was a little bit of both, but the more fucked up, I think the funnier.
Will gave me the okay to tweet that. So if I get any backlash, I'm thanking you, Will.
Yeah, I'll be your fall guy.
Thank you.
Like Chris Carter. So we lost a lot of good men. I wrote about Eric Decker this week. I originally wrote like when he joined the Patriots, that I was a little upset maybe. So yeah, I said what I think a lot of people were thinking, and that he's dead to me, which I think was fair. I think it was a balanced take on Eric Decker signing with the Patriots. But now a lot of people are asking, like, now that he's retired, should he be forgiven? And so I still don't know. I really don't.
Yeah, I think he should. He didn't do any meaningful snaps for the Patriots. He obviously thought so little of them, he left, but mostly because he was going to get cut because he couldn't learn the offense fast enough or hold on to enough balls. But I'll forgive him just because, he's given so much to me by being the dumbest nickname that is stuck to my channel in Big Dick Decker.
Yeah, he couldn't stick around long enough to trip over his own big dick, and that's
exactly
kind of a tragedy. One question about Eric Decker, though. So he wore number 81 in a few preseason games with New England. Do you think that was in tribute to Randy Moss or Aaron Hernandez?
Decker always talked about how he thought Hernandez was innocent.
Yeah,
so
I know. He'd go out of his way to bring it up. It was very strange.
It was very weird. It's like, dude, they asked you about what routes you liked running, and you keep mentioning Hernandez in this press conference. Like, chill.
I know. It seemed very out of place, but that guy, he was as loyal as they come. So.
Wait, is Gronk 87? Is that why you couldn't wear it?
Yeah, Gronk's 87.
I always think Gronk's 69, but obviously he's not. It's 87.
Yeah, I don't think that. I don't know if 69 is a tight end eligible number, but
no, I think you got to be a lineman.
If there's anyone who would petition the NFL to change that, it would be Rob Gronkowski.
Gronk. All right, so Broncos, this final preseason game, let's get into the nuts and bolts of this shit. They're playing the Cardinals tonight. You said Josh Rosen is not playing. We can correct that.
Yeah, can we also bring up the fact that Josh Rosen knows who you are now?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, so he was doing he was reading a mean tweets thing for the Arizona Cardinals, probably like their website.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, at Brandon Perna, what did you say about him? Something about him being
I said he looks exactly like a less handsome version of Aaron Rodgers now. And that was during the NFL draft. So it was mostly because they kept cutting to him, and he kind of had like the same dead, disappointed look on his face that Aaron Rodgers had during the draft. So that's kind of what I was referencing, and he is not as handsome as Aaron Rodgers. Actually, Josh Rosen looks more like me as a level of handsomeness than compared to Aaron Rodgers. But when he read that shit, when I saw that, I felt really bad. Like, The other thing I wanted to ask you today was like, am I too much of an asshole? Like, I look at everything as like I'm joking and that I'm not being too serious when I'm being critical of players. But like, I guess making fun of somebody for not being super handsome is kind of fucked up. I don't know. When I saw that video the first time, I just felt really bad and like a shitty person. And that's not what I want to be.
Well, I think like anybody who follows you on Twitter and gets like the context of the Brandon Perna brand probably understands where you're coming from and wouldn't take it as an insult. However, Josh Rosen, as far as we know, isn't an avid listener or watcher of That's Good Sports. So I think he probably – I mean, he said like, thank you, ? So,
and he laughed. He kind of laughed. Yeah. And it wasn't super mean. I said a less handsome version of Aaron Rodgers. I didn't say an ugly Aaron Rodgers. So
no. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, like, I'm going to be real with you. Like, he's a lot more handsome now than he was in 2005. Like, 2005, like, he had the weird, like, soul patch and, like, his hair was spiked up, which was kind of the style at the time. Not, like, to make excuses, but –
no, you're right. And let's be honest, like Aaron Rodgers is no like Eric Decker.
No, heavens no.
Part of his handsomeness comes from his personality. Like
true. And his ability to play quarterback really well.
Right.
At the highest level.
I think dating Olivia Munn for a long time really upped how you looked at him physically.
Correct.
So, I also pointed out in my new video where I sort of apologized to Josh Rosen that if you're an NFL quarterback, it doesn't matter what you look like because you're going to get a ton of ass. Whatever kind of ass you're into, you're going to get.
Well, we all know that Josh Rosen had a hot tub in his dorm freshman year at UCLA, so
yep,
he's got the ass market cornered.
Yes, he does.
I mean. And by knowing what I mean he probably had a lot of sex.
And that concludes our breakdown of the Broncos-Cardinals game.
That's right. No, so we're not getting Josh Rosen. We're getting a man who's even less handsome than Aaron Rodgers, Mike Glennon, starting for the Cardinals.
See, now you're the dick, not me.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people have pointed out that he kind of looks like
he's got that
jungle animal, a giraffe.
That long neck, right?
Yes.
So I don't really give a shit about watching Mike Glennon. Mike Glennon and Chad Kelly, that's kind of the QB1 battles. I don't really give a shit about watching Paxton Lynch either. The guy I never even heard of, though, Chad Kanoff. I can't wait for Kanoff time. Kanoff?
I'm going to be Jack Kanoff to the second half.
He's one of the first quarterbacks drafted from Princeton in a long time or ever or something.
Well, might I remind you, it's not Princeton, but Ryan Fitzpatrick did go to Harvard, so
yeah,
it's an Ivy League school.
Keep talking.
Yeah, I'm ready for Chad Kanoff. I can't think of his last name without thinking of Jack Kanoff and how funny it would be if his first name was actually Jack. But I think this is probably the first time in NFL history we're getting two Chads head to head. I'm taking our Chad.
Chad off. It's a Chad off.
I'm taking our Chad over Mr. Kanoff, but
what were other Chad quarterbacks? Chad Henne? Chad Pennington?
Chad Pennington. Chad. No, I can't. I think that's the only two Chads.
Okay.
That come to mind. So
Chad versus Chad. The quarterback, like, if you're a Broncos fan, you want to see Chad Kelly play well again. Arizona looked really good against Dallas, so I think he'll get at least some decent competition from the Arizona defense. And the more reps he can get, the better. But really, this game's all about roster spots and kind of who's on the bubble. What position group are you going to be kind of focused on, or do you think is the most important for the Broncos to try to figure out? And who do you think's going to get that spot or not get that spot?
Yeah, so I'm going to probably be watching like the D-back – I won't say D-back, but the defensive backfield and like their depth there. So we're probably going to see a lot of Isaac Yiadom, who I think everybody knows And you can
Struggled.
tell by the Pac-Man Jones signing, has not been very good so far this preseason, and I don't want to write him off. But somebody I'm very close to writing off, Brendan Langley, who's behind him. And I want to see what he does with some targets tonight because he's yikes for a third-round pick.
Yeah, well, here's the interesting thing with Yadam and Langley is they both played 126 snaps this preseason. So they've both been on the field the same amount. Neither has done anything great, but Yadam's been targeted quite a bit more than Langley.
Yeah.
And given up more, which may mean that Langley's been better in coverage more often than not.
Yeah,
I don't know. I haven't watched the game closely enough, but neither – and to be fair to Yadam, like I didn't expect him to be playing well right out the game. I think corner is one of the hardest positions to come into the NFL and play.
Absolutely.
And if you're taking a mid-round guy, like you have to expect he's not going to be ready for a year or two at the position. So – I think it's good Yadam's getting all these reps now. I didn't expect him to be a contributor, and in no way did I think like the Broncos taking him was a solid addition for their depth at the position. And with that said, you would assume Langley would be ahead of where he is right now, taking him last season, right? Is that kind of where you're going?
Yeah, I mean, you knew Langley was going to take a while because he was a wide receiver originally in college before he switched to corner. So it's kind of a project, but you'd like to see some progress from year one to year two. Because when he got on the field in 2017, it wasn't great. Like if you remember back to the second Oakland game in the Coliseum, he gave up that huge pass that basically lost them the game when they were trying to come back and win it. So I don't know. I mean, Yadam, he's gotten more targets, I think, just because he's been like that fourth corner, and he was playing in place of Tremaine Brock in that Vikings game. So he's getting reps against the number one guys for Minnesota and then a little bit for Chicago. Like Chase Daniel was basically looking at Yadam every other play. But, yeah, I mean, I want to see if C.J. Smith does anything good and, like, see if he can get on the practice squad or, like, I don't know if he can sneak his way in at this point. But I want to see him. I want to see DeMonte Thomas again, who was really, really good against Washington last week. Had that huge tackle on fourth down and then broke up another pass too. So I think this is probably the year that he makes his way onto the roster. And then we're seeing Sua Cravens for the first time tonight. So
is he going to actually play?
That's what I heard. So it'll be interesting to see if he does in fact exist. So
the rumor can be put to bed. Sua Cravens is real.
Yes. Well, yeah. I'll believe it when I see it, Brandon.
Okay.
But,
okay.
Yeah.
So,
anybody you're looking forward to seeing tonight?
No.
What about do you know if Carlos Henderson is playing?
I don't know.
I feel like he should be.
We should know the answer to that. I think if he wants to be on the team, he has to fucking play.
Yeah.
It's hard because that's honestly, I think the toughest roster spot the Broncos are going to have to make a decision on is that final wide receiver.
Yeah.
Because we've got the four guys in Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Cortland Sutton, and Deshaun Hamilton. They're all in. And more likely than not, Tim Patrick is that next guy. And then you have to make a decision with Isaiah McKenzie because technically he's a wide receiver too that they think can be in that sort of slot position. But I don't know if I don't think he has like the size to be an effective, like more than he's on the field a couple snaps a game type wide receiver. He's obviously explosive, but Carlos Henderson was supposed to be that guy. And then you have a bunch of other players on the roster that I think might be better suited to be a better wide receiver than Isaiah McKenzie. But since Isaiah McKenzie is supposed to be your punt returner, do you keep that roster spot open for him and hopefully sneak a guy or two that you like through onto the practice squad in I think John Diar's, Bryce Bobo, there's Chapman's back there. A few guys, I don't really know enough about all of them to speak intelligently and say this is the guy it should be. But I think tonight that will be kind of what I'm watching.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I guess I want to see Carlos Henderson make the team, not because like he deserves to be on the team, because I don't really know if he does or not, because I don't think anybody knows what happened to cause him to miss so much of training camp. But like, you want to see it from like a perspective of not wasting a third rounder.
Right.
Because last year already, like you can tell, was kind of a rough draft, although it seems to be turning around a little bit with Kelly and Jake Butt and Garrett Bowles. But I don't know, you want to see, a plus mark on John Elway's offensive drafting record.
I guess so, yeah.
If for nothing else, to like stop being made fun of all the time.
Right. God forbid Elway gets made fun of too much.
Look, someone has to defend him, and more often than not, it's me. So
someone besides everybody has to defend him at some point.
Yes. Not the hero you asked for, but I'm the hero that John Elway deserves. So
exactly. So that's kind of what we'll be watching for the Broncos tonight.
Right.
And now we will shift by transitioning to our NFL segment. If you don't want to listen to this part, I suggest you just turn down the volume and let it play anyway.
Yeah, if you're like a fucking weirdo who likes the Broncos but just isn't interested in anything else about the NFL, what can I say? Not the show for you. I'm sorry.
Not the show.
At least not the 30 minutes for you.
So the first thing I wanted to talk about, and I kind of just threw this at you last second, was Mina Kimes wrote an article for ESPN about Jalen Ramsey. I suggest everybody go and read it because I think it's interesting. I think Jalen Ramsey's fascinating. I think somebody who is as confident as he is entertaining. This article kind of talks a lot about that cockiness and confidence. And the picture they use on the article, Ramsey looks like a sex god from the 70s, basically. He's everything I want to be and am not. But one thing from this article I thought was hilarious is they were talking about his college coach and Jimbo Fisher, and that Jimbo Fisher, his team had produced a lot of good defensive backs. And Jalen Ramsey said, he didn't teach me not one DB technique. So basically immediately shit on the idea that he learned anything from Jimbo Fisher. And then he –
Okay, well, hold on 1 second. I have a problem with that just because, like, I wouldn't expect Jimbo Fisher to be in there mixing it up with the defensive backs because Jimbo Fisher played quarterback when he played. Played quarterback, not cornerback.
Right?
Yeah, and he was the head coach at the time, but he was by trade a quarterback's coach and an offensive coordinator the entire time he worked his way up to be the head coach at Florida State. So he's like not really the guy to be teaching you DB techniques.
Well, that's fair. And I think Jalen Ramsey's point, maybe not as articulate, is that he shouldn't get any credit for defensive back success.
Well, I think you get credit for recruiting them.
Well, okay. I can recognize talent.
Well,
doesn't
clearly not because I'm on the show, Brandon.
Ooh, I can't counter that point.
It's a joke. It's a little self-facing.
Hey,
humor.
you got to be self-deprecating because if you're not, the internet commenters will shit on you anyway.
Just like Joe Thomas on that desk.
And then he also commented on the fight he got into with AJ Green last season. They're asking him why, and he was like, I called him soft, called him a punk, talked to him, said whatever I wanted to say, did whatever I wanted to do. Receivers are like naturally soft, so sensitive, was the quote from Ramsey. And to me, again, just go read the article. Good stuff there. But my point is, I hope Ramsey continues to talk just so much shit and get into it with receivers because I find it to be one of the most fascinating things. I thought I always wanted to play NFL cornerback, but obviously I lacked the confidence to be able to do it.
And only the confidence.
I admire it. So
yeah. Well, Jalen Ramsey calling someone sensitive after he basically tried to start a war with Jacksonville media for literally covering the fight in practice. It's a little bit of the pot calling the kettle black.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like, you usually are kind of lashing out against your own insecurities, right? So the things you're criticizing other people for, can often tend to be the things you're most insecure about yourself.
Yes, like when I said you had a fake beard. I didn't say it. I just brought up the fact that some people might think that.
Might think it's fake, but it's all natural, baby.
Okay, so we got some big news yesterday.
Dude, yeah, a ton of news happened. And you should check out our collab video. Will help me write the what the fuck did I call it? Aaron Rodgers contract, Teddy Bridgewater getting traded videos. Basically the top 7 news stories of the week. And Will's going to hopefully help continue to write those for me. But check that out.
We're going to try to make that into like a weekly flagship type of show, I think.
Yeah, every Tuesday is what we're going to shoot for.
Caught up,
to keep you caught up with your NFL news. But
it's hard to keep up.
Dude, so much happens so fast.
Yeah. The Saints, one of those things, the Saints traded for Theodore Bridgewater, the first. He's a quarterback. He's not going to start because the Saints still have Drew Brees. So what do you think about the Saints giving up a third rounder? And also, what do you think about having him wait on the bench until Brees is done playing?
I think it's a smart move for New Orleans. I think everybody kind of saw Drew Brees' passing game dip down a little bit last year. Luckily for New Orleans, their running game was just insane.
Yeah.
I obviously still think Drew Brees is a great quarterback, and like a drop off for him is still he's better than almost every other quarterback in the league. But you have to prepare for his exit because he is getting old. He is a smaller, older quarterback, which we haven't really seen for a while. So I think there's just some unpredictability there. As a small man, I can attest to that. But I think Bridgewater's a good quarterback, and I think he deserves for his next opportunity to be with a good team. And with the offensive weapons that New Orleans has and should have for a while with like Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, even Ingram still, fairly young. I think that's a good fit for him. I think coach like Sean Payton is a good head coach to play for. I like the move for Bridgewater. I like it for the Saints. I don't think they gave up too much to get him. And I think the Jets getting a third-round pick, I think they could have gotten more for Bridgewater. But I think it's like one of those deals that's a fair trade for everybody, I guess.
I mean, it seems like it was actually a pretty good move for the Jets considering they only spent $500,000 in cap room to get Teddy Bridgewater for the preseason. And that's that's all the money that they're going to eat for signing him in the first place. So you're basically trading $500,000 for a third-round pick, which is something you're going to take every single time. So pretty actually shrewd move by Mike McCagnon and the Jets. But yeah, it kind of comes down to have the Saints been hearing from Drew Brees that this could be his last year? I could see him after everything that happened in the postseason last year after losing in probably the worst fashion ever.
Right.
Him just being I'm going to give it one more shot and we're going to go all in and shoot for the Super Bowl. And if not, I'm hanging him up and calling it quits.
Yeah, I think Brees has 2 years max left in him. And that's probably pushing it. So, yeah, Bridgewater might be their starting quarterback, 2019.
Yeah. I think you just hope he stays healthy because I think the knee is probably still a question mark. I don't know if I'd ever walk again if what happened to Teddy Bridgewater happened to me. So you just can't not root for the guy.
Right. And I think another year of getting reps kind of in a reserve role, his body will be healthy and, the bone should be strong as it can be by 2019. And there's no guarantee, there's no guarantee Drew Brees doesn't get hurt or something this season.
Right. Yeah.
That's always a question.
Yeah. You've got all this talent around him. It'd just be a terrible shame to have Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas and all those guys you mentioned and a great defense, and then Taysom Hill's playing quarterback.
Here's the
and
bold
going for
prediction.
11. Let's
The
hear it.
Saints this year are last season's Eagles.
So they are winning the Super Bowl
Yeah, but it's
with Teddy
Bridgewater.
Bridgewater.
Yeah,
Ooh.
very interesting plot twist.
Who are they? Does that mean they're beating the Patriots?
No, Patriots won't make the Super Bowl this year. That's my other bold prediction.
Who's coming out of the AFC then?
Jags, baby.
Shagging off. The only other team that was rumored in Teddy Bridgewater trade talks. Although
We started those rumors.
I think we started that in the Tampa Bay rumors, which I'm still disappointed is not with Tampa Bay, but
Yeah. Oh well.
it'll have to do. So yeah.
So Aaron
Get
Rodgers
excited.
Aaron Rodgers became the richest player in NFL history,
Sure did.
and Odell Beckham Jr. became the richest wide receiver, but his guaranteed money is basically close to Sammy Watkins or a little less even.
Sure did. That makes no sense to me because if there's anybody that gets hurt more than Odell Beckham, it's Sammy Watkins. So
That's true. I had Odell with my first fantasy pick last season, and
That's tough.
it is so nice. I am very good at doing that.
Yeah,
Picking the guy who I'm like, I'm going to take a chance on him, and then he gets hurt. So this year, that guy is David Johnson. I said he can't get hurt 2 years in a row.
Just you watch because he might. If it makes you feel any better, I took Kawhi Leonard with my first pick in my fantasy basketball draft.
I was going to say, for fantasy football, that seems really risky.
Yeah, not a wise move. I haven't seen San Antonio start an NFL team yet. But yeah, not only was he hurt, he just didn't want to play. So could always be worse.
What's Rodgers' deal is he's got $103 million guaranteed and 80 million guaranteed by March. So he's almost all of Kirk Cousins' guaranteed money in a half a year, which I thought was fucking just the most baller move you could have.
Aaron Rodgers' contract has to be half the GDP of Wisconsin. I'm surprised the Packers had this much money to give him.
Don't underestimate the cheese industry, Will.
It's true.
How do you think Baja Fresh gets all that delicious nacho cheese for you?
You know what? I don't want to see how the sausage gets made, but I guess I'm going to choose to believe that they do get it fresh from Wisconsin on a jet plane that they drop off right at the store.
Do you think Beckham will live up to his contract?
I think he's not going to. Yeah, I think he's going to be a good player still. But my problem is I don't think it's a good team building move to pay a wide receiver that much money. You can see the Broncos probably wish they hadn't given Demaryius Thomas that contract. Everybody loves Demaryius Thomas, I think, or at least most people do. But if you look at him now, it's he's making more money than he's probably worth, especially with those two young wide receivers, and you can kind of just draft the guy and plug him in. But at the same time, you just couldn't really not pay him,
Yeah. No,
I mean, he could, but
he would have walked. He would have went somewhere else. I think his biggest question there is health, and I guess your quarterback situation for the long term. But you lock up Beckham, you're high on Saquon Barkley, assuming Eli Manning can get a little more protection. The offense should be a lot better, and I think Beckham will play better knowing that that's taken care of. Also, do you have HBO? Did you watch The Shop?
No. Oh, the show with LeBron James and Jon Stewart? No, I didn't see it.
You should watch that. That shit is good.
What they talk about?
They just talk about everything, man, and it's a real conversation. It's really refreshing, and I was more impressed with that show, even though the concept's a lot more simple than Hard Knocks. I watched it right after Hard Knocks, and I was like, fuck, man, it's kind of what I feel what sports really needs, where athletes can be extremely candid, say whatever they want, and just have a real conversation about issues and shit they deal with So this is just not a paid promo by any means because nobody's paying us yet, but I would highly recommend watching The Shop.
Also,
if Beckham's on there, he didn't say much, but he's on there.
Yeah, I mean, if any athletes want an open forum where they can speak their mind and talk about issues and everything you just mentioned, hey, we'll do that. Come on the show.
Come on the show, athletes. We'll let you say whatever you want. Won't be as funny as Jon Stewart, mind you, but we'll try.
Be a poor man's Jon Stewart.
Yep, that's all I've ever hoped for, really.
A homeless, destitute man.
That's how I first described my show on Twitter, was a poor man's version of The Daily Show, but weekly.
That's not bad. The weekly
sports,
show.
You know?
Yes. Perfect comparison. So I have one more question about this, and it's out of Odell Beckham and Aaron Rodgers, which player do you think has a better chance of winning the Super Bowl on their current contract? So for like the next 5 or 6 years.
Between Beckham and Rodgers?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Rodgers, I would say Rodgers, just because he's in more control of that.
Fair.
The Giants, I would say, probably have a better team, but Rodgers is like the ultimate example of a quarterback who carries his team. And
he's going to have to carry his team now because he's making a lot of money. Yeah,
and we'll see kind of how that plays out over the next few years. I think 57.5 of that is 57 million of that's a signing bonus. So half of that 100 million that's guaranteed is a signing bonus. And the way that signing bonuses count against the cap is different. And I'm sure they finagled some shit. So I don't know what the ramifications will be long-term, but I think you're right. Yeah. The Packers are going to have to be more cap savvy than the Giants, but I think Aaron Rodgers has a better chance of winning another Super Bowl than Eli Manning does. If Eli Manning wins 3 Super Bowls, that'll be fucking nuts.
He's only made the playoffs like 4 times.
Half the time he gets to the playoffs, he wins a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think if Eli Manning was like a few years younger, I might err towards the side of Beckham. But I think Rodgers, I don't know, he just has one. He has one left in him. I hope.
Yeah, he's got to get another one.
Yeah, because he's the best player in the NFL, and you should hope to see the best players on the biggest stage, and not see the second best quarterback on the biggest stage every year.
Right. And with the Rodgers deal, with Rodgers' deal, the Packers trading away Brett Hundley to the Seahawks, I think makes more sense because I'm guessing they decided to keep Deshaun Kaiser because he's cheaper than Hundley.
Yeah, and they thought so Brett Hundley won 3 games last year. Deshaun Kaiser won 0 games in the same season. So I think their rationale was we're paying Aaron Rodgers so much money that if he gets hurt again, which like you said, players aren't allowed to get hurt twice in 2 years. That's just science. We might as well just give it to a guy who's incapable of winning and get the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, get a better draft pick if Rodgers gets hurt, and that's how we build our team.
Based on that logic, I like the move. For Seattle, I think a 6th rounder for Brett Hundley is a lot better than what they're rumored to be giving up, which was a 2nd rounder that they didn't have for Jacoby Brissett. So I like the move. Russell Wilson has never missed a game before in his career, so I don't know if it's going to be necessary. But they still have a really shitty offensive line, so anything could happen. And it's nice to have an insurance policy. And Brett Hundley's okay. I still don't think they're winning very many games either way. So
yeah, he's okay. He's looked good this preseason, so that's probably a move, again, that favored both teams. And as we get into our final segment here, Max Millions, it's like an 80s, 90s movie title. The Rams have restructured deals with Robert Woods and Andrew Whitworth, freeing up $7 million in cap space for 2018. So the other big name guy, Aaron Donald, who has not signed yet, that is an indication that should be happening. And unlike Khalil Mack, where there are no indications that anything's happening with the Raiders.
Except for a trade.
Except for maybe getting him the fuck out of Dodge.
Yeah, according to Mike Florio, who's never wrong. So
is Donald should be signed. I hope that happens because I really want to root for the Rams this season in the NFC. I want to see Donald and Sue on the field at the same time. So keep your eye on that, and let's do Max Millions.
Max Millions. All right, so Khalil Mack, he has not reported yet to Raiders camp, and for that reason, he's been fined a total of $1.6 million for not showing up yet.
It's fucking insanity.
That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. It's not as much as we make in one episode of this show, but it's still a lot of money. So my question to you, what would you buy with $1.6 million?
My first answer would be 28 Toyota Priuses.
Can I ask what you would do with 28 Toyota Priuses?
Oh, sorry, not 28. 68. 68.
Yeah, that sounds more like
68 Toyota Priuses. It would be my first step to match Jay Leno in how many cars I own, and also be much more environmentally sound than, say, Jay Leno.
Yes, because if you drive one Prius and you're helping the environment just by driving a Prius, if you're driving 68 Priuses, just think of how much more you're saving the environment.
I'm 68xing saving the environment every day.
It's basically saving the environment to the 68th degree.
Yeah. And some people would say, why not get a Tesla if you have that kind of money? It's all electric. Well, they're too trendy. And if I have that much money, I want to be seen as somebody who's still down to earth, not too much. Like if you walk in and see a guy with like 50 Teslas, that guy's a dick. That guy's an asshole.
Correct.
And he's just getting those Teslas for show. My Priuses are coming from the heart. So,
and also, like, the great thing about Priuses is when you're driving home and like you're pulling into your neighborhood, there's always the option of sneaking up and hitting like a person in the back because you can't hear him coming. So that's always in your back pocket.
Right.
Is manslaughter.
Which
is one of the benefits of Priuses.
Always like from The Office, right? The silent.
That's right.
When
I'm sure Teslas are too, but they're just too flashy for that.
Yeah, and they go 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds.
Yeah, I feel like you'd hear that.
You definitely manslaughter somebody with that.
Yeah. All right. So any more, or do you want me to? Because I've got 10 queued up.
Give me your 10 and hit them quick, like Davey Letterman.
I'm gonna go rapid fire.
Rapid fire 10. Will.
Number 1, I want $1.6 million in cash delivered to me in a Brinks truck, like we said.
Oh, you're recycling your jokes now.
A little bit. All right. Second, I want 1.6 million tall cans of Arizona iced tea.
They only cost $1?
Yeah, they're 99 cents.
Shit.
And also, I would have to buy them in Oregon or Nevada where there's no sales tax. So,
smart. So you can't buy that many because you're going to spend money just to get out of state.
I don't think that money counts towards the 1.6 million.
You don't think gas money counts?
I mean, I'd come from a separate fund.
Here's what I'll do. I'll come in my Prius and pick you up and drive you there for free.
Perfect.
All right, next one, 8.
Makes too much sense. All right, 8 or 3, because that's the way I numbered
3.
it on my.
You're doing it that way. 3.
A 1-bedroom apartment in New York City. $1.6 million.
I don't even know if that'll buy you one of those.
Probably not. Which leads me to number 4. A 4,000 square foot home in Texas.
There you go.
Just a little real estate commentary.
You could get, I think you could get a lot bigger home for that.
Yeah, you could probably buy like 4,000 acres, I feel like, in Texas.
Yeah.
I feel like Texas is mostly just wide open space.
You might be able to buy the entire state of Wyoming for that.
Oh, and have some left over to like buy South Dakota too while I'm at it. No one lives in South Dakota.
that listens to this podcast. If you live in South Dakota, let us know in the comments.
Please do. There has to be someone like I bet they get the Broncos in South Dakota every week. So
I once read an article that men living, I think, in South Dakota, on average, have the largest penises in the United States. So I don't remember where I read that or why somebody explored that stat, but that's all I really – anytime I think about those states, that pops up.
Do you think men with like large penises just flock to the Dakotas, or their penises become bigger just by living in North or South Dakota?
I think it's got to be a little bit of both.
It has to be. Just that mountain air really fills up the dong.
That's right. The Dakota boys.
Yeah, more like Dick Coda. Got him.
Too much.
All right, number 5. Number 5, 10 seconds of Warren Buffett's time. I just want 10 seconds to say like one or two things to him.
What do I do with this 1.6 million? Oh, fuck, I already gave it to you, Warren.
Yeah, 10 seconds. All right, 6. I would use that 1.6 million to marry a woman, not sign a prenuptial agreement, and then divorce her.
Why?
Just so I can talk about my damn ex-wife and how annoying she is, because that's what old people talk about, right?
That's a weird one. I'm gonna say that's going to be.
Oh, actually, no. That's just so I can become like an '80s stand-up comedian and make jokes about my ex-wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know when your ex-wife calls you for that type of shit?
Hey, people hear about that beached whale up on the coast? Yeah, that's my ex-wife. Bada bing. And then everybody just like laughs and applauds and like tears are streaming down their face.
So you're gonna get married and divorced just for your stand-up career is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'll
admire that dedication.
I'll be like Andrew Dice Clay, my wife.
You haven't done any stand-up, but you've got the plan to start, and that's important.
I feel like you have to have the material before you start.
There you go.
I don't know. It's just me. Number 7. I forget how to read numbers, but I'm going to try this anyway. Okay. 100,600,000 pennies to throw at poor people.
Whoa. Very, very dark.
Because if I'm rich, I got to tell people that I'm rich and also lose 1 penny at a time while doing so.
If I were a teacher and you were my student and my assignment was, what would you do with $1.6 million? And you wrote that down, I would say, this is very creative, Will. I see a lot of creative potential from you, but I'm going to have you see the school therapist.
Well, you sound like a lot of my teachers already. Okay, so moving on. Number 8, a Zeppelin. Everybody, like, people still have blimps. Like, there's still, like, the Good Life blimp. But nobody is just, like, up in the sky riding a Zeppelin anymore.
I like that. That's my favorite one so far.
Yeah, Zeppelins have, like, gone out of style since World War I when the Hindenburg just kind of exploded in midair. Like, people have kind of been weary of Zeppelins ever since.
Yeah.
But I want to bring back Zeppelins because it's a good way to travel.
Like comparison, cruise ships are all over the place, even though the Titanic sunk. So
why
not Zeppelin?
Why let one bad apple spoil the whole bunch?
Fair. Love it.
Right. Also, they have destructive powers too. So you can.
Okay, there you go. Getting too dark again. Next.
All right. Well, you're not gonna like this one if you think I'm getting too dark. So, a trapdoor in my office in front of my desk. Kind of like Mr. Burns in The Simpsons. First of all, I would need an office in the first place, one that's not my bedroom. So once I get an office and also $1.6 million, I'm going to install a trapdoor.
Smart.
Where it leads to, I don't know. Possibly a pit of cobras. Maybe it just goes all the way down to the Earth's core. Who's to say? So, all right.
I will never take an office meeting with you. I know that.
Well, you know what? I'll show you. I'll tell you where the trapdoor is.
Okay, cool. Then it's cool.
Yeah.
Is this the last one?
This is the last one, number 10. I want to have Ringo Starr perform at my birthday party. I originally said Paul McCartney, but I think he costs a lot more than $1.6 million. And the other two are unfortunately no longer with us. And I feel like Ringo Starr, you could pay him like, I don't know, probably like $50 each show up. So I think I just have him perform for the rest of my life at my birthday.
Are you a big Beatles fan?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of like I like the Beatles, yeah, but also like at the same time, it's like you get to say like the Beatles or just like the Beatle perform at your birthday party.
That's pretty cool.
You get people to come that way too, yeah.
Oh, I hit my elbow.
Yikes.
If I were to do that, it would be I would have if I could get Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, that would be my dream. But if
speaking of Zeppelins.
Yeah, if I had to pick one, it would be Robert Plant, who has the voice of an angel, in my opinion.
Indeed, a great solo career.
Just to sing at my birthday. So
he's not even going to perform any songs. He's just singing "Happy Birthday," but it's only him.
To buy the rights to sing "Happy Birthday" might be just as expensive.
I feel like that might be in the public domain, but
it's not.
Oh, it's not?
Mm-mm.
So if we sing it on the podcast right now, we'll be sued and have to stop the show?
Yeah, and maybe it is now, but I know for a long time they wouldn't do it on TV because nobody wanted to pay for that shit.
Who owns the rights to the Happy Birthday song?
I don't know.
Probably Warren Buffett.
It's why, like, if you go to restaurants, they have their own stupid song.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Maybe none of that's true. Maybe that's like one of those urban legends. I don't know. If you know why, if you have info, please tell us in the comments. But that should wrap up our podcast today. I thought that list was pretty strong, Will.
Yeah.
I only came up with one reason, so I think you win there. Make sure you follow Will on Twitter at WillKeys6. I'm at Brandon Perna on Twitter. Share the podcast or whatever. And thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.